Hi. So in this video I wanted to go over some basic probability rules. But before we go over those, it's important to define what probability means. Well, the probability of an outcome is a number between 0 and 1 indicating the proportion of times that outcome will occur in the long run. It's defined by between 0 and 1. 0 being that event has no chance of happening, like it will not occur, or 1 that it is guaranteed to happen. But anything between there says that it will indicate that it is likely to happen or that it's not likely to happen. Another phenomenon that occurs with the basic rules of probability is that all the possible outcomes together must have a probability that add up to 1. So let's say you're taking the probability of a dice rolling. Once you add the probabilities of each number happening separately together, it'll equal to 1. Another thing that happens is that if all outcomes in the same space are equally likely, the probability that event A occurs can be found using this formula that says that the probability of A equals the number of outcomes corresponding to event A, all divided by the total number of outcomes in the sample space. Another thing is that since the probability of an event occurring and not occurring equal to 1 when you add them together, then to find the probability of an event not occurring, you could subtract the probability of it occurring from 1 to find your answer. This is called the complement. Lastly, if two events have no common outcomes, then the chance of one or the other happening is the sum of their individual probabilities. We call these events mutually exclusive or disjoint. Now that we have these basic concepts down, we can go on to talk about the rules. So, the addition rule for mutually exclusive events means that if A and B are mutually exclusive, then the probability of A or B happening is simply the probability of A plus the probability of B. However, if they're not mutually exclusive and share common outcomes, then the probability of A or B happening will equal to the probability of A plus the probability of B minus the probability of A and B occurring. So this Venn diagram is a perfect way to see where the formula is applicable. So since these two events, A and B, are not mutually exclusive because they share common outcomes, then you would have to do the probability of A, which is 0.90, plus the probability of B, which is 0.80, and then subtract 0.75 from that because that's what they share, so that you would get only the ones on the outer part of the Venn diagram, the ones that are not common in both events. Up next is conditional probability, the probability that an event will happen given that some other event has already occurred. So, a typical example would be you have a big family reunion. Out of that family reunion, you want to know how many are vegetarian given that they're women. So instead of taking the amount of people that are vegetarian out of the whole family, you take it out of only the woman in the family. To find the conditional probability, you would use the formula that goes, the probability of B given A equals the probability of A and B divided by the probability of A. To find the probability that events A and B will both occur, first you need to know if they are dependent or independent. When two events are said to be dependent, the probability of one event occurring influences the likelihood of the other. The general multiplication rule is used to find the probability that events A and B will both occur given they are dependent of each other. And this rule says that it will equal the probability of A times the probability of B given A. Lastly, we have the multiplication rule for independent events. If A and B are independent events, then the probability that A and B both occur is the probability of A times the probability of B.